What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming. We're going to do a little bit of a different video here. So what are we doing anyway? Well, just recently it's been brought to my attention that a little known website called VG247, obviously little was a bit sarcastic, has published a list. Well, now, I shouldn't say has published a list, but a while back they published a list. Myself, I've never seen this list, and many other people that I know of have never seen this list, but it was only brought to my attention recently. And I was asked to give my opinion on it because of, well, RPGs and JRPGs being my preferred genre and my favorite genre of all time. So I decided I'd make a little bit of a video about it as we look through it live for the first time ever. Many of you might have already seen this list, but I haven't, maybe you haven't, and I'm curious because I've played RPGs and JRPGs for 30 years, and yeah, it's going to be curious because I figure a lot of these will either be the same staples that make every list, or they'll be the flavor of the month games. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So I have this. Here we go. I searched for it here because I didn't want to click in and see possibly like the list or the first result or the last result or however it's done inside it. We'll see how it goes anyway. So we're going to click in and we'll get started. I don't know what to make of this because before we click in anyway, VG247 is, I won't say they're not the most reputable site, but they're a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? We'll call them a little bit of a casual site, if you will. So it is what it is, but we'll go into it anyway. We'll see how it goes. So first up, okay, I saw about 3 or 4 names there, which I don't care about, because we'll deal with that when it comes out. The big thing I'm taking issue with straight away is number 50 on the best JRPG of all time is Secret of Mana. I take issue with this because this is my favorite game of all time. And this should not be number 50. This should be number 1 and fuck what anyone else says. Overall, I'm happy to see it on the list. But the problem is it's a given that it's on the list. I think this is bullshit that it's down this low, but that's just me. I'm not going to read what they say about every game because we'll be here for like 6 hours, but Secret of Mana, number 50, I disagree, much higher, whatever. Call me biased. Guild Wars 1 and 2. I'm not surprised it's on the list. Guild Wars 2 I'm a little bit surprised it's on the list to be honest, but Guild Wars 1 has had a pretty huge following for the longest time. Buy to play MMO with multiple expansions, so it was obviously pretty popular. Pillars of Eternity, a relatively new game, but it's got a shitload of critical acclaim. If it's the one I'm thinking of, this is the Obsidian game, the one that Obsidian make, and they have Obsidian have a good track record. Look at Fallout New Vegas and some of the stuff they've done before it. 47, Legend of Dragoon. Again, I'm not surprised it's on the list. It is one of the staples. What I am taking issue with is the fact that it's so low. Legend of Dragoon is one of the best RPGs on the PlayStation, and many people think it's actually Squaresoft or Square Enix, but it's actually not. It's an internal Sony studio that made it, which is a shame because it's such a good game and we haven't seen anything to do with it since. But to see it this low kind of disheartens me. Granted, this is obviously a list that is multi-platform for 30 years, but I still would expect to see Legend of Dragoon higher. The Ultima series, there was no question this was going to be on the list. Again, it is so strange to me that the Ultima series is so low down on this list. Fable, again, same deal. Expected it on the list. To be honest, I expected it to be considerably higher. I was expecting it to be in like the top 20, maybe even like the top 15 or 12 or so. System Shock 2, a game I didn't expect to see on this list, but now that I think about it and see it here in front of me, it makes sense why it's on this list. It's a great game. System Shock 2 is a fantastic game. I never really jigged it in my head as an RPG going into this list, but I can see why it's here. Again, I'm surprised it's so low. Is this one broken? I think that one's broken. Let me see, is there no, I don't think it's broken because there's 7 of 58, so there might be more broken ones. We'll go on anyways. We'll see what's next. Ni no Kuni Rat of the White Witch. I'm glad this is on the list. I didn't think it would make it, but with the whole Studio Ghibli involvement and level 5, yeah, I suppose it does make sense. It's a great game. I really hope it gets remastered or ported to the PlayStation 3 or possibly PlayStation 4. Ported from the PlayStation 3 to the PC, like they've kind of hinted at, and possibly to the PlayStation 4. Especially with the second one coming out in next year. Anachronox. I'm not familiar with this game. I'm just taking a quick look over the bottom here. Ion Storm's Forgotten Game, blah blah blah. Neglected Middle Child to Daikatana and Deus Ex. I can't really comment on this one. The name does not ring a bell. Why do I even have headphones on? There's no recording. There's no sound here. Here we go. But easier to hear my own voice here. Legend of Heroes Series 41. I'm happy to see this on the list, only because I didn't expect it to be on here. I think the only reason this game is on the list, or well, it's talking about the series, but I think the only reason why this series is on the list is because lately, I say lately, but over the last year or two, they've been successfully porting games to Steam. And they've been selling like hotcakes on there, between like the Trails of Cold Steel and the original Legend of Heroes games. So it's good to see on there, because I played the first two. I played Trails of Cold Steel 1, and I didn't play 2 or Legend of Heroes 3. But yeah, pretty good. Lord of the Rings Online. I never played it. I can't really talk about it. I think it got shut down pretty quickly, if I remember correctly. I don't know. But yeah, apparently it's worth it. Apparently it's worth making this list. The Last Story. I don't know how I feel about this. This game was an okay game from what I remember. It released on the Wii, and it was in a really busy time, so some of it kind of does escape me, and that part I will say. I think they're giving it a little bit more leeway with the quality and all, and the facilitating it on this list because of Hironobu Sakaguchi's involvement. So, I think they're giving it a bit from there. It is, unfortunately, one of the few games on the Wii. Like the Wii, we all know, had bad standard def graphics in a time when standard def graphics were gone. But this game had so bad graphics that it actually was compared and analyzed to run worse and look worse than PlayStation 2 games. And that extremely hurted for many people. The Dragon Quest series, I'm honestly surprised this is not higher. I expected this to be in the top 10 because, well, the Dragon Quest series is legendary. It's even more popular in Japan than Final Fantasy is nowadays. Okay, just another one of these I'm not sure if it's broke or... Well, let me take a look at the numbers, actually. 38, 37. So it's just a little bit of a break or advertisement or whatever. EverQuest, there's no question whatsoever EverQuest was going to be on here. Wasteland. Is this the original Wasteland that I'm thinking of? Is this like the sequel to the Wasteland 2 we all know and love? If so, then yeah, I'm not surprised. If it's a different one, then I can't talk about it. But if it is the original one, which I never played and didn't have too much involvement with, I only heard about it, then I'm not surprised it was on this list. I wouldn't be surprised if Wasteland 2 appeared much higher on this list as well. Obviously, we'll see the Fallout games too, but we'll see how it goes. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. That's a game I haven't played in about 10 years. One of the few good gothic RPG style ones. It was still one of the 3D style ones, but it was one of the few gothic ones when in that kind of era there was a lot of gothic vampire-esque stuff, and this was one of the few good ones. So it is good to see it on the list. Tales series. Is this the Tales of series? Because that looks like Tales of Fantasia. Let me take a quick look. Since 1995, the Tales series has been one of the best JRPGs. Yeah, Bandai Namco, 16-bit era, Tales of Berseria. Yeah, okay. So yeah, again, the Tales series, there was no question that this was going to be on here. They've got some of the best JRPGs in like more recent times, as well as even some of the older ones. But the real focus is on characters in this, and they're just so high quality in basically almost every game. There's always something that's good there. Like Tales of Symphonia is probably the best overall Tales game. Then you've got Tales of Xillia, which has the best characters from pretty much any Tales game. You've got Tales of Grace's F, which has basically the best combat system off the top of my head that I can say is the best in them. So they're all pretty high quality in at least one aspect. Can't wait to see what the rumored next one is coming to the Switch. The Xeno series, sort of. How do they say sort of here? Xeno series isn't even a series. That's not true because there's a third game coming out and there's already two existing games and hell, even a pseudo prequel, if you will. Let's see, but we can track it back to the 1998 PS1 Xenogears. That's the one I was talking about, the pseudo prequel, if you will, because that was the one that kind of started it. Just reading what they have here. Yeah, it's okay. Well, we'll disregard what they're saying here mostly because it's kind of all over the place when it comes to it, because you've got like they're talking about the Xenosaga trilogy, which had nothing to do with the Xenoblade or the Xenogears trilogy, and now has nothing to do with the Xenoblade and Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. So, or not trilogy, but series, but they're all just all over the place here. So, fuck this entry, and I'm disregarding it completely because, well, it's VG247. They're obviously a bit casual and uninformed. And yeah, before someone puts a comment in the thing below, it's like, oh, well, the Xenogears, when it was given to Bandai Namco, or when it was created by Bandai Namco as a spiritual successor, it's because it had the director or whoever, like the big staff members from Xenogears, they moved over because whatever reasons. It doesn't work that way. Torchlight, again, Torchlight, the series games, I'm not surprised they're there. I wonder if we'll ever see Torchlight 3 now that I think about it. Torchlight 1 was a good game, bit limited. Torchlight 2, unfortunately, took too long to come out. It was still decent, but by that time we all just figured, hey, we can be playing Diablo 3 instead of Torchlight 2. As kind of questionable as Diablo 3 is. That reminds me, we're going to see Diablo 1 and 2 on this list. We might see it as series, or we might just see it 1, 2, and 3, because, well, there's a big disparity in quality between 1 and 2 and 3. Jade Empire. Not a fan personally, but at the same time, it is one of the highly heralded BioWare games of the early 2000s, I suppose we call it, because it came on the PC and the original Xbox. Again, I didn't like it. It was one of the few that kind of focused specifically on an Oriental style narrative, if you will, an Oriental style aesthetic and systems, based on a lot of the other stuff that was going against it at the time. Titan Quest, the name is familiar, but the game is not. Based, I'm looking at what I'm here. It serves Dungeon Crawler, too similar to Diablo 2. I won't talk about this. I'm too unfamiliar with it to give a proper opinion on that one. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, again, one of the staples. I expected to see much, much higher. Even though this is a multi-platform list, I still expected to see it much, much higher. Definitely deserves to be on the list, and much, much higher. Shadowrun. Wow, the original Shadowrun. I forgot that even... Did that even come out? I didn't even realize that came out on Super Nintendo. Wow. Between the SNES and Mega Drive releases. Holy shit. I didn't play much of it, but... Or, well, I shouldn't say I didn't play much of it. I wasn't too much up on it, if you will. So it's... I can't really talk about that one, but I hear, like, founding RPG things about it, so I'm not surprised to see it on this list. The Pokemon series, I suppose you could call them RPGs, and yes, if you do classify them as RPGs, then they definitely do deserve to be on this list, especially with what Pokemon Red and Blue, just Gen 1 in general, really did for the entire handheld gaming, and for Nintendo and the series in general. Suikoden series, yes, definitely. Suikoden 1 and 2 are extremely high quality and critically well acclaimed and received, and they're well heralded. But ever since after 2, I think there's 5 games and then a tactics, or 2 or 3 tactics games. Everything after the first 2 was kind of not. I don't know if they were lambasted or anything, but they were nowhere near as well received as the first 2. So we'll really focus on the first 2 on that section. We get a little bit of a break. Demon Souls. Really? I never got the Souls series. especially as an RPG. I don't think so. From everything I know about the Soul series, both Demon Souls, the Dark Souls trilogy, and Bloodborne, I wouldn't consider any of them RPGs. I could be wrong. I've never played any of them properly, but if you said to me, if you showed me a Dark Souls game or a Souls game or a Bloodborne, and you say, give me a genre for this, it would be hack and slash. Wouldn't be an RPG. But hey, it's just me. Someone's going to be banging out a comment in the section below, and I was like, it's the biggest and most detailed and in-depth RPG ever. Feel free to say that. I disagree. Neverwinter Nights, definitely put them in there as well. I've got a lot of old Neverwinter Nights stuff, mostly on the old PC, of course, but I still have some of them upstairs. But yeah, you get the idea. The thing I like about Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate, etc., is they're all very D&D influenced. They're all skill check based, and it's one of the reasons why I love Morrowind so much. When you compare Morrowind to like Oblivion and Skyrim, Morrowind still had the old skill check D&D feel. The other ones didn't. The Bard's Tale is legendary at this point. I don't need to talk too much about it. I can't really call it I suppose it's a stat-based text adventure, but it's legendary. I'm sure if you're in this video, you've probably even heard of the Bard's Tale and you know a bit about it. Divinity as a series, Divinity Original Sin is the I think it's the most recent one, but Divinity the Original Sin it's not a series I'm too familiar with. My uncle plays the second one and he says he loves it. But I don't know much about Divinity, to be honest, beyond that. Might and Magic 6. I'm surprised they didn't just put it in as a series. I'm surprised they put in just an individual game. I will be completely honest, and I'm at the point where the Might and Magic games, there's been so many of them, and they're all so long ago for the most part, they all kind of mix and match to me, and they just kind of mesh together and blend in and out. I can't really discern one from the other, or what was in one, what wasn't in one. Well, I really didn't mean to hit the microphone there. I talk with my hands a lot. And when one came out, when didn't, when I played it, when I didn't. But overall, the series, I'm not surprised the series is on there, but I'm surprised an individual game got its own individual mention. Fallout Modern Series. This obviously includes Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. So they're great games. Fallout 3 was arguably, I won't say landmark, but it was a huge breakthrough at the time for what it was doing. We had only had Oblivion in the same style before it, and we all know Bethesda had taken over at that point for Fallout, and we wanted to see if their style would transfer over well to Fallout. Luckily it did, and then they contracted out New Vegas to Obsidian, who basically made a better Fallout game than Fallout, or than Bethesda. And then Fallout 4 came out, and well, it didn't live up to many expectations, if you will. It was a bit dumbed down and all. It's still a good game, but not a great Fallout game, if that makes perfect sense. But overall, the Fallout Modern series is pretty good, and I'm definitely good to see it on there. To be honest, I thought they would break it into individual games, at least for maybe New Vegas and 4, and I thought at least one of them would be higher. Okay, another break. Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire, this is obviously, it doesn't say series in this, so I'm going to assume, I'm just going to quickly read, hasn't been a core Breath of Fire series, blah blah blah. Capcom's Dragon Quest PS. Okay, yeah, they're talking about the series here anyway, but for some reason they didn't include series, so I wasn't sure if they were talking about Breath of Fire 1 or the series in general. Breath of Fire is an excellent series for the most part. We don't talk about that whole modern mobile game because I don't know if it actually came out in the end, and we don't like to talk about Breath of Fire 5 Dragon Quarter because, well, it's Breath of Fire 5 Dragon Quarter. But Breath of Fire 1, I didn't play it at the time when it was current. Breath of Fire 2, same deal. It was, where I lived, it was very, very hard to come across that kind of stuff. And I did play Breath of Fire 1 and 2 when they came out on the GBA much later, and then on the virtual consoles and all as well. Breath of Fire 3 is a landmark PS1 RPG in my mind. It is one of the highest quality RPGs ever made. Breath of Fire 4 is almost as good. A lot of people give it shit because they say it's nowhere near as good as 3. 3 is like I said, it's an excellent game. But Breath of Fire 4 is almost as good. It's very different. The combat has a very basic, like a Final Fantasy style. They kind of have an overall loose basis on it, and they work with that. Overall, Breath of Fire 1 to 4, excellent games. Definitely happy to see this on the list. Earthbound, there's not much I can say about Earthbound. It's one of the staples. It's one of the quality staples that we all knew would be on this list. And there's not much for me to talk about it. I am going to be playing Earthbound pretty soon. I don't know if I'll be uploading it. I definitely won't be streaming it because it's an RPG. It's way too long. But anyway, it's legendary. It has a massive cult following nowadays. It's Earthbound. Enough said. PK Fire. Knights of the Old Republic series, I'm not surprised this is on here as well. Games I just bought recently, but I wasn't actually a fan of, mind you. I played the first one way back in the day on the OG Xbox, and I wasn't a huge fan, but I did re-buy them both on the OG Xbox recently to give them another proper shake, now much further down the line. They're heralded as some of the best RPGs of the time, especially because there wasn't too much on the Xbox in that aspect, and they came to the PC as well, which they were, well, it's old school BioWare and Obsidian, so it says it all really. Now where are we? Dragon Age Origins. I'm happy. First off, I forgot Dragon Age Origins basically existed, as bad as that is going to sound. And it's going to be contradicted by what I'm about to say. I'm happy to see Dragon Age Origins on the list, and I'm even happier to see it's not Dragon Age series on the list, because Dragon Age 2 was fucking awful. It was so... I played the demo of Dragon Age 2. It was so ridiculously bad that they just completely bastardized the game into a mindless hack and slash with basically no RPG elements whatsoever or anything like that. It's one of the two main games that is generally, two main series that is generally attributed to EA ruining from BioWare, the other one being Mass Effect. However, the thing about it is Dragon Age Origins is fantastic. It's the first one in the series, and it's a brilliant game. It really shows that it's pre-EA. If you believe all the stories and all the rumors and all the alleged allegations and all out there, is apparently Dragon Age Origins was over 90% complete before BioWare were bought by EA. So it was still essentially very much a BioWare game instead of a bastardized EA BioWare game. Because we all know what EA do to games companies and studios and developers and shit after they buy them out. They just homogenize everything and bastardize their games, run them into the ground, get a couple more games out of the series, then they shelve the series because it's been panned because they bastardized and homogenized it, and then they just shut down developers, and well, we all know how that goes. So I'm great to see that Dragon Age Origins is on there. It is a brilliant game, as opposed to the second one, which was absolute dirt, and because of that I wrote, I wrote Inquisition off completely, and I have no idea if Inquisition was good or not. I hear it's good. I hear it's better than 2, but not as good as 1. But saying it's better than 2 means nothing to me. So, because I mean, I could walk face first into a wall and it will be better than Dragon Age 2. Deus Ex. I'm surprised they didn't give a Deus Ex series on this. Then again, if they did, they'd have to include that shitty console game. So, yeah. But yeah, Deus Ex was it's one of those landmark, historically influential games like Half-Life. Deus Ex is in there too, and it will go down in history forever. Chrono Trigger at number 14. I'm a little bit surprised, for the simple reason that Chrono Trigger is one of those staples that is usually considerably higher, and especially in Chrono Trigger in particular, because of the art from Toriyama. You had the actual the writing and there was the trio. You had the writing, the music, Uematsu for the music, and you had Toriyama for the art. And then I think at the time it was still Sakaguchi for the quality of the rest of it. So it was one of the best ones ever created, and I definitely agree with it on the list, but I say it should be much higher. It's in my top 5. Now, this one says Persona, so I'm guessing it is Persona as a series. Let me just have a quick look on here. It's a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series. Yes, blah, blah, blah. The latest entry, Persona 5. Okay, yes, okay, that's That makes perfect sense. So yeah, Persona as a series should definitely be on here. It should definitely be higher. Persona 5 garnering ridiculous amounts of attention and critical acclaim since it released in the West earlier this year. Personally, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played, and it dethrones Persona 4 as the greatest Persona game I'd ever played. Just by a comparison, in my top 5 best games of all time, number 1 is an irrefutable, unshakable Secret of Mana. Number 2 to 5 actually are technically 6 games, believe it or not, because they're all so fluid in there. They're just so close that I can't pick an actual game. One of which was Persona 4. So by comparison, you have a lot of top quality Super Nintendo and PS1 series games. My hand is still up here for some reason. And then it was PS2 version or Vita version, whatever you want to call it, of Persona 4 was so good it instantly was in the quality of those games and could be said in the same breath. Persona 5, same deal again. It now shares a spot, a joint spot in my top 5 with Persona 4 and Persona 5. So and I'm in the middle of playing Persona 3. Well, not in the middle, I'm right at the end of it. But you get my point. If you haven't played Persona games and you like, say, Final Fantasy or anything like that, turn-based RPGs, play these games. Morrowind. I'm so happy Morrowind is this high on the list. Number 12. This makes me also wonder if we're going to see the Elder Scrolls as a series or if they're going to break down other games. Because curiously enough, we haven't seen Skyrim or Oblivion yet. I'm not surprised Arena or Daggerfall aren't on here, but I was expecting to see the Elder Scrolls as a series. Personally, I believe Morrowind is the best Elder Scrolls game. It was the first one to move into proper full 3D versus Arena and Daggerfall, and it was still heavily influenced by the old school style, the old school D&D style, the skill check style. You could argue that you could make a tabletop game of Morrowind with huge character skill sheets and stat sheets, and it would transfer over one-to-one perfectly. If you did that with, say, Skyrim or Oblivion, not so much. I still think Morrowind, great to see it this high on the list, and it's still my favorite Elder Scrolls game, and that will probably never change, because I doubt they'll ever go back. Planescape Torment. I've heard of it now and again, but I've never played it or done anything with it. For me not to know anything about a game this high on the list is kind of I'll hold the L. Final Fantasy series, and curiously enough, they show a picture of Final Fantasy 14, not Final Fantasy 15 or any other one, but Final Fantasy 14. Anyway, Final Fantasy, it's one of the greatest series of all time. It's one of the greatest RPG series of all time. What can I say about it that hasn't been said? It's Final Fantasy. It's probably the longest running JRPG series that many people would consider the best JRPG series. Some people even consider it the only JRPG series. And it just celebrated its 30th anniversary this year. So it is what it is. But personally, I think a lot of people, including myself, are under the belief that Final Fantasy has kind of fell off over the last maybe decade, specifically since Squaresoft became Square Enix. But the problem is, when you look at Atlas and what they've been putting out in the Persona series with the consistently high quality and the critical acclaim and critical reception, and you compare that to what has been put out and received by Final Fantasy over the last, well, let's call it the same time period, Persona is going pound for pound above, way above Final Fantasy at this point. I've actually recently made a video, I hate to plug it, I'm in the middle of a different one. I made it like a week or two ago on the channel. You can actually see where I compare a lot of Final Fantasy versus a lot of Persona in the king of JRPGs nowadays, because, well, check the video out if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's pretty in-depth. It goes about 25 minutes long if you've got the time, but it, yeah. Dark Souls series, again, this confuses me, because they had Demon Souls by itself, and then now they have Dark Souls. I'm not sure if the two systems are very different. Again, I haven't played them, but at the same time, I wouldn't consider Dark Souls an RPG. I have Dark Souls 3 on PC. Maybe I'll play it at some point, but I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'm right, or actually, you know what? Because Dark Souls fans are some of the most rabid and usually the worst fans there are. Some of them, of course. But let me know in as much detail as you want to give. Feel free to leave a 6,000 word essay. I will read it and I will respond to it. That is my promise. But the point is, if you think I'm right about Dark Souls and not an RPG, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. Detail as much as you can why in the comment section below. And like I said, I promise I will read it. I will try to understand it because I'm not familiar with Dark Souls, and I want to know. You guys know better than I do when it comes to this, so let me know. Diablo series, again, why am I not surprised? The only thing I am a little bit surprised about is that they put it in as series. But then again, you've got Diablo 1. I can't even get words for how good and influential and amazing it is, and how many ridiculous amounts of hours I spent back on like a Windows 98 computer with Diablo 1. Diablo 2, same deal. Diablo 2 lasted over 10 years across multiple different operating systems for everyone. And Diablo 3, it's not terrible, but it's such a huge step down from Diablo 2. It feels very, very noobified and very easy. It suffers from Elder Scrolls syndrome, if you ask me. You had the complexity and just whatever you want to call it, depth of Diablo 1 and 2, and then Diablo 3. And then again you had, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. So it's still great. It's definitely worthy of a top 10 spot. So what was number that? That was number 8. So we're in the top 7. This one is going to be curious how this one is going to finish up. Fallout Interplay. So this is original Fallout, at least. I'm curious to see if we're going to put Fallout 2 on it. Well, okay, I'm reading the first line here, and they're doing the Interplay series or the Interplay games for Fallout. So you've got Fallout 1 and 2. Who did Tactics, actually? Was that not Interplay as well? I'd have to check my actual boxed copy, but I see why they'd put Fallout 1 and 2 in there. Tactics wasn't too great. 1 and 2 were amazing. They were a perfect mesh of post-apocalyptic gameplay, turn-based gameplay, stat-based gameplay, strategy-based gameplay, and just all the town and other systems, not just the combat, but the social systems, the interaction and all. Such amazing games. Which is probably why Wasteland 2 is so popular. It's hyped up as a modern version of Fallout. I kind of want to go and buy Wasteland 2 after this video now. World of Warcraft. I don't know what to say. I haven't played it. It's obviously big and influential. Like, those words don't even do it justice. It's like one of the, I think it's the third, maybe fourth longest running RPG or MMORPG. I mean, you've got EverQuest, RuneScape, maybe some of the Ultimate Online games. Final Fantasy 11 is going longer, but it'd be up in like the top 5 of the longest probably. But again, it's World of Warcraft. It's a phenomenon. It's World of Warcraft. Baldur's Gate. I already touched on Baldur's Gate earlier in this video when we talked about Neverwinter Nights. And I don't really know what else to say about it that I haven't said in the Neverwinter Nights part of it from earlier in the video. My first personal experience with Baldur's Gate was actually on a console, believe it or not. I know many people are probably calling me a filthy casual down in the comment section below, but that's what started my love for Baldur's Gate and expanded it to PC games and beyond when it comes to the Baldur's Gate series specifically. Started on the PS2, then you had there was the GameCube and Xbox version as well. It was Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. Put in ridiculous amounts of playthroughs and ridiculous amounts of hours with my friends, all in local co-op, and then I moved on to other stuff. And we all know, even before that, I knew Baldur's Gate was a big deal on PC, but, well, it obviously is if it's number 5 in this list. Mass Effect series. I don't agree with this being so high whatsoever. I love Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1 is one of the best role-playing games of the previous generation, of the 7th generation of consoles. Obviously it's on PC as well, but it was heralded as the big thing, the big deal on 360. Obviously PS3 and PC as well. But when it comes to Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 1 was like the Star Trek, or the original series of like sci-fi RPGs of the time. It was the original series almost, you could say. There was a couple of things before it, like 15, 20 years before it on PC, but that's what it felt like, and it really had the kind of almost 80s. I realize the original series is 60s, but I realize, not realize, it did it really well when it came to this kind of thing. It fit perfectly. It had the proper humor. It had the proper look, the proper feel, the proper, we won't call it satire, but I suppose you call it satire. It was all done perfectly. The only things that I had to say negatively about original Mass Effect were performance issues, and the combat was a little bit clunky, but Mass Effect 2 refined it. It got the engine running better, got the game running better in general, and it also got the combat going, and it was basically in around the same deal. Here's my problem. While Mass Effect 1 and 2 were fantastic games, especially of the previous generation, Mass Effect 3 just kind of nosedived. That game really reeked of EA homogenizing and bastardizing a game and a series and a studio. There's legendary stories behind it. I won't go into the detail of them right now, but we all know they're out there. You've probably heard them, you've probably read them, you've probably been cringed and disgusted by them. But we all know how that went, because Mass Effect 3 was panned for years. It still is in unfixable ways. And then Andromeda most recently came out, and it was again bastardized, homogenized, completely destroyed, and basically every way, shape or form supposedly is absolute shit, and the series is now on hold. So it says it all. So that's why I don't agree it should be this high. But we'll see anyway. Legend of Zelda as a series, no, as a number 3 spot, yeah, definitely. I can't argue with that whatsoever. They're some of the highest quality RPGs ever made. Some people would say they're action adventure games. I say kill yourself, but yeah, they're definitely out there. Legend of Zelda, Link Between Worlds, Link to the Past. I can't believe I can barely remember the name of my own favorite Zelda game. So yeah, Link to the Past, one of the highest quality games of all time from the role-playing genre. You also have Ocarina of Time, which again is legendary at this point. And well, they're using the picture right here. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a modern masterpiece, which will probably get many people's Game of the Year this year. I don't agree. It's my... Shit, I kind of gave that away. Moving along. The Witcher series. This is starting to illustrate what I was worried about at the start of this video before we clicked into the list. You'll notice that a lot of the stuff in the top 10, the top 15, maybe even the top 20 are very modernized games. I'm not saying modern games can't be great. Look at Persona 5, look at Breath of the Wild. These are amazing games. The Witcher 3 we're seeing right in front of us, although this is a Witcher series, but you know what I'm saying. So yes, The Witcher 3 was like Game of the Year for like what, over 100 awards, over 200 awards. So naturally it's there. But what my big issue with this list, and why I was expecting something like this when it came to VG 24/7, and I've kind of ruined it on myself because I can see the thumbnail for number 1, and this applies to number 1 as well. While these games are... they can be masterpieces, they can be amazing, they can be fantastic, they can be insanely deep and engrossing and in-depth, and they can provide you with hundreds of hours of entertainment. Yes, they can be people's favorite games of all time, but to be placed so high on a best RPG ever list with some of the other stuff that's been mentioned on here, I don't agree with it. If you had put The Witcher as a series somewhere between maybe 10 and 20, I would have said, yeah, that feels perfectly. I would have even argued, it's like, maybe it should be like number 10, maybe, number 12 or something. Because we all know The Witcher. Now, here, full disclosure, I played a shitload of The Witcher 1, but I didn't finish it. I never played The Witcher 2 because I didn't finish The Witcher 1. And I never played The Witcher 3 because I never played The Witcher 2 because I never finished The Witcher 1. I plan on doing it someday, but that's just the full disclosure side of it. I know some people will use it against me in this video. But whatever. Now, I can see the thumbnail, as I said. This is an affront. An affront to the RPG genre. Because I have to be careful about how I word this and how I talk about number one. Because Skyrim is a brilliant game. Skyrim is a fantastic game. It's a great game. There's no question about it. I've put hundreds of hours into Skyrim. There's no question about that whatsoever. Where I draw the line is having it number one. Because it's the most, like, probably the most mainstream of role-playing. It's basically describing what I was just about to say. I wasn't going to use mainstream, but Skyrim manages to please the newcomer at the same time, allowing the hardcore to go boots deep, blah, blah, blah. Political crafting, brutal combat, as you're fighting massive dragons, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The problem with Skyrim, many people are going to probably give me shit over this because, well, people like Skyrim a fuckload. I don't blame them, but I don't think Skyrim deserves this. Skyrim should be in like the 10 to 20 mark, somewhere in with The Witcher. And I know it's an unpopular opinion to believe that Morrowind is better than Skyrim. But that's just me, that's my opinion. Because don't forget, there is no definitive list. This is my take on their list. And the fact that, as I mentioned before we even got into this list, VG247 is a more mainstream, widespread, casually appealing kind of website. And it says it all that they give it to Skyrim as number one. I mean, yes, Skyrim has lived on for years. It's on more platforms than Jesus at this point. Hell, it's even finally come to Nintendo Switch 2 console generations and 6 years later. But the point is, I don't think this is right. It definitely deserves to be in a top 50. It would probably deserve to be in a mainstream top 20. I don't think giving it number one is just, and I don't think it's justified, if you ask me. Because don't forget, here's the thing. Skyrim isn't as legendary because it's Skyrim. Now, what do I mean by that? Skyrim is as legendary as it is because of mods on PC for years and years. When did the special edition come out? I think it was last year on consoles and now I suppose PC. But it took them that long. It took, 5 years to come out on consoles with mods. And it only did that because of how popular it was for the last 4-ish years on PC because of all the mods. No one remembers Skyrim for Skyrim. You know what everyone does remember? Macho Man Randy Savage dragons. Thomas the Tank Engine dragons. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, or possibly even millions of mods for Skyrim. That's what sold tens of millions of copies over the last couple of years. Again, I don't deny Skyrim's a fantastic game. Bought it on day one on the 360. Spent hundreds of hours in it. Have the big Skyrim, is it called Legendary Edition? The big massive one with the dragon? I have that upstairs. So, I mean, you can't fault me for saying I'm a Skyrim hater, or I'm an Elder Scrolls hater, or whatever. But it's evidence of what I said at the start. I'm just going to leave it there. With the whole casual list and what they're appealing to is with a VG247 list. And it doesn't surprise me that this is here. So let me know in the comment section below what you think about anything I said in this video. And again, if you're a Dark Souls fan, if you are a Demon Souls fan, or even a Bloodborne fan, let me know the big thesis I asked for in that, because I want you to explain it to me. I don't know. I'm asking you to help me about it, to understand, make me understand, because that way I can give a more educated opinion on it. And who knows, maybe I'll play Dark Souls 3 someday. We'll see. Let me know all of that shit, as well as what you think is your, like, maybe top 2. No, we'll go with maybe top 5, because there's no point in me asking you for top 50, top 10, top 1. Give me your top 5 RPGs of all time as well. if they're on this list, if they're not on this list, if they're in a weird order, if it's partial, whatever, and what you think about Skyrim being number one. Do you think my analysis of this list and or Skyrim is just, if it's generalized, if it's unjust, if it's accurate, whatever? Let me know all of that in the comments section below. Hit the like button if you liked this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't for some reason. If you're not subscribed to my channel already and you want to see way more excellent quality content like this that I claim to make, let me know by hitting the subscribe button and maybe even turning on notifications so you can find out when I stream or when I upload a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel. Peace out, everyone.